Hi guys, it's Kelly here and I'm back with another video for Honeybee Stamps. Today we are going to be using the Frappe shake card and then the Big Bold Birthday, and that's pretty much it. So we're going to do a shaped version of this, which as you can see here, the die already has us set up for. I did pull out this is Bristol cardstock because it was the only one that I had that was going to be at least 12 inches, which is kind of what you need for the base. And then I just cut out all of the pieces parts. So it has like the top, the whipped cream, the actual like milkshake or drink section, and then two pieces that go over the top. One piece that goes over the top, and then one piece that's a straw, and then you have those little circles that you would use to do your little emblem. Here I am showing you that because it is longer, when you're going through and die cutting it, if you don't have like an extended plate, you may end up in the same situation that I'm in. So I just run it through once. I leave it on my cutting surface, and then I just scoot the paper out and then run it back through again. And then that way nothing's wiggling around and I don't have to worry about it not die cutting and not matching up. And then this is going to be our card base for one of our cards. The other one I'm going to do just as a regular A2 size card. And again, if you guys have been following my channel recently, you know that I'm looking for kind of like nice, easy card designs that allow me to accomplish something and bring my heart a little bit of joy without stressing me out. So I figured, I don't even know if I've ever done a video with this one before, but I've had it for a really long time. So there I was just going in and erasing some of the stickiness. And then here I'm just kind of laying everything out, making sure that I have all of my pieces. And then I am, in addition to the pieces that we've cut so far, I am going to cut one of the full size, just one side of it. I'm going to do that out of clear acetate. And then this is Yupo paper, and this is what we're going to use to make our iced coffee, our coffee drink. These obviously could also be milkshakes, and I do have some ideas for that. So maybe we'll revisit this again, kind of later in hotter weather. As I'm doing this voiceover right now, it's only 48 degrees in Ohio, and our low tonight is 36. Remember what I said about the other day, that it was like false spring, false summer? Well, I was right. So anyway, let's talk about options for alcohol inks. So you have these ones I think are the most popular. These are from Ranger, and they're the Adirondack inks. You could also use your alcohol markers. I have Copic, but you could use any alcohol marker re-inkers for this. Or Altenew has some alcohol inks. You can get them individually or as bundles, and right now they just happen to be 50% off. At least this one that I'm using, which is the Fall Sunset. But anyway, any of these things will work. I'm also going to be using the Tim Holtz blower tool, and then you can use alcohol blending solution, or you can just use regular isopropyl alcohol. I am cheap, so I tend to use that more, though I do use them in combination. Then we're just going to talk about some different ways you can kind of apply this. This is really simple. So for the Adirondack inks, I am using Dijon, which is kind of that one that looks like maybe it's a little hair more on the green side. I am using Honeycomb, and I cannot remember what this one's name is, and it does not on there because it's part of a blender pack. So I'll just link that pack. But anyway, so here I put down some just regular alcohol, then I dropped in a couple of drops, and then, I'm using the air blower to kind of move that around until it's looking how I want it to look. I thought that this would be a really great technique to kind of get that iced coffee kind of vibe where it's like right after you put like the caramel sauce in it, and like you've dumped your creamer in, but you haven't mixed it up. It kind of looks like this. The other way that you can apply it is with a felt pad. Some of the sets have these with them. I don't have any more. I don't know where they went. I don't have any more of the square applicator tools, which is actually how, like way back in the day when Distress Inks and alcohol inks kind of first came out, like everything was those square applicators. I have the round. It worked fine, but basically you're going to put the felt pad on there. You're going to add the ink to the felt pad instead of to your cardstock, and then you're just going to kind of pounce it on. This definitely, I think, puts down more color, and it also adds more texture. You can see it's not nearly as smooth. So depending upon what kind of vibe you're going for, I really like the colors in this one, but I definitely wanted it to be more of that kind of marbled look. So I'm just going to add more either alcohol or blender solution. And then I'm going to use the air tool, the air blower tool, to kind of move them around. There's no wrong way to go about it. Like whatever gets you the results that you like. This was really quick. And so you can see I'm using two different, on the left-hand side, I use the Adirondack inks. On the right-hand side, I use the ones from Altenew. I do have another video where I use just the Copic markers, refills. Sometimes with alcohol inks, you have kind of a lot of buildup that doesn't really always dry down. It just ends up kind of sticky. And because I typically put layers on layers, this is something I usually have, but it also gives me this really cool opportunity to add some foil to it. So you want to have deco foil, not the hot foil type of foil. And you just lay it on there, kind of burnish it over it with your hand, and then the foil will stick to any of the sticky parts. I will tell you here as I'm going to go in and do my die cutting, since I've already done the foil, I will use a piece of copy paper just right over top to keep it protected. Not just keep the card protected, but also keep my plates protected, because alcohol ink will dye anything. Like anything that it's put on, it will dye. And then one other thing to note, when I'm putting my tape down, I am trying to avoid those foil areas because that tape can kind of pick it back up. So I was able to cut 2 out of this one 5x7 piece, which is going to be the 2 that we're going to use for the cards that we're going to make. I was really happy with the way that they came out. I thought that they worked really well. So for the one that we're going to put onto the regular A2 card base, here you see me again cutting just 1/2 of the full thing. And then I'm going to trim off this bottom piece. Now, even though they are the same size, when you trim off this bottom piece, it really makes it look much wider. It looks like a thick girl. Like it's a real thick girl after you cut off that bottom, which doesn't mean it's not beautiful. It just means that it looks a little bit different because of our perception. So here I'm just holding that one up there. I like the Fiskars trimmer has a wire in it, so it shows me exactly where I'm cutting. So I used that to cut off the initial bottom, and then I just held them together and used my shears to cut off the second part. So now you guys know I can't leave well enough alone. So in order to add some shading to the whipped cream on top, I chose some warm grays, and I'm using a W1, 3, and 5. The 5 is anytime you're coloring something white, you're just adding the shadows. So the 5 is kind of going to go into the darkest parts. And then we're going to go right over top of that with the 3 to soften that color and extend it out a bit. And then, the W1 will go over all of our previous layers, and then, extend out so that it blends quite a bit. And I did this the same for both of them. And then we're going to switch to cool grays to do our shading for our lid, for our cup. So even though you're only going to see just very little of it, I still want to add the shading to the actual die cut portion that is the lid. So that's what I am doing here. I'm doing it on the one for the A2 card that has it, just the piece cut off completely, and then for the one that is the card base, I'm also adding it on there. And then, like I said, it has that other little piece that just lays on top, so adding some shadows to the left and the right and the bottom. So yeah, I was really happy with the way that these came out. I don't know. Are you, if you're not coffee people, you could, like I said, you could definitely make them like milkshakes. But I looked up because it's a frappe shake card. Like, what is the difference? Because you know, and a frappe has a coffee or a tea base. And then a milkshake obviously has a milk ice cream base, which I thought was interesting. But now, cold brew was kind of taken the world by storm, like the coffee world by storm, which is very delicious. I do like a cold brew. But I was telling my husband, because the one that we end up doing green, the shaped card, it gives very much like Starbucks vibes, which if you guys know me, you know I am not a Starbucks girly. I'm ride or die Dunkin' Donuts. Let's talk about this right here. So here I decided that I just picked colors that I thought would look pretty with the kind of amber and gold tones we have going on. And so I chose purple and then the darker hunter green, which, like I said, is kind of like very traditional Starbucks. So one of the girls that she and I used to work together, my husband still works with her. And we used to have lunch every day. Like I used to tease her all the time because I would go get my Dunkin' Donuts and she would have to go to, Starbucks. And it's not even like a bougie thing either. Like for me, I just think Dunkin' Donuts has better coffee. That's just my personal opinion. I like a light roast, and even Starbucks blonde is a little potent for me. So I have some dark purple cardstock and then also some dark green. I'm using the same sentiment for both, and it is from that big and bold birthday that we just used the other day with the cake. If you caught that video on Monday. And so this one says happiest of birthday wishes to you. So there's no reference to cake or anything like that. But I do know the girl I used to work with, her birthday is coming up. And since my husband still works with her and is now in a different position, he sees her a little bit more often. So I was telling him, I was like, I just made the perfect card for you to give her birthday gift. And maybe you guys could get her a little, coffee gift card or whatever. So these were stamped in our brilliant white pigment ink and then heat embossed with the white detail embossing powder, which I could not find initially because it was on my floor. So I had to get my backup because the other one had dropped on the floor. Tell me your craft room is messy without telling me your craft room is messy. Am I right? So here, just going to put those down. And then I did cut one extra one out of white just so that they would have a little bit of lift on top of them. And then we're going to start building our cards. So the green one is going to be the one that is a shaped card, and the purple one is going to be the one that's the A2 size card. And both of them, I tried to, make sure I was like measuring out that they would still, fit in a regular sized envelope. So the one that is shaped definitely has to go in like a 5x7 envelope, just because it's really like it's a 4x6 basically once you're all done, and then even the straw kind of sticks out a little further than that. So I am adhering our alcohol ink coffee, if you will, and then I'll do the lid. The whipped cream goes on top of the lid, and then the top piece, which is actually the bottom piece of that lid, will go on top. And some of you may be asking, like, Kelly, you cut out this clear acetate, but how are you going to adhere it to the card? And don't you fret, I am going to. And it looks, I'm really happy with the way that it came out. I mean, I really am. Like, it could be done a little bit differently, I think, if you wanted to be particular about it, but I am not. And I think that it came out just fine. So here, I originally put the whipped cream down, but I wanted the straw to kind of like slide down into it. Don't do as I do as I say. Because I shouldn't have cut it on my glass mat. I am running the risk that I'm going to scratch my glass mat. So I did it with like super light pressure, and then you can see once I had the little line scored in there, I just went in with my detail scissors. And then for this one, I'm going to get it at the angle that I want it to be, and then I will go ahead and trim it off. If you decided to do an overlay that was not clear acetate, like let's say you wanted to do a vellum overlay so it looked like it was in a nice frosty kind of cup, I would not have cut it off because it would have been behind the vellum, so it would have looked like it was inside the drink. But since I am using clear and there's no way it's going to look like it's inside the drink, I'm just going to go ahead and trim it off. And then this piece will go on and complete the lid. And then, like I said, it has those two round pieces, which I originally did cut out. But then I decided that I wanted my sentiment to go there. So here I'm laying my acetate overlay in place so that I can adhere my sentiment on top in the center to make sure that it's going to be where I need it to be. Mind you, I've already glued that white piece to the back of it. In order to make sure I'm sure that this is not going to go anywhere, not only am I going to use liquid adhesive, which is going to give me a little bit of wiggle room, but I am also going to use some like tear tape. And so this way I know once I put it down onto that acetate, like it's not coming off. It is going to stay exactly where I want it to be, even if that means I have to peel off all these little things. So I told you, and you guys probably already know, that I'm a Dunkin' Donuts girl, though now that I work from home, I don't get it as often. So on the rare occasion that I do, if there is an issue, like if it's not as good as it normally is, it's really, really disappointing. Like before, when I worked every day and I was drinking it pretty regularly, like if I got an off cup here or there, I wasn't like, it was just like whatever. But now if I get an off cup, I'm like, are you kidding me? I never drink this anymore. But I do still use their creamer. I do. I know it's more expensive, but I use the extra because it has the cream and sugar in it, and it's lovely. Okay, so you saw me adhere the sentiment down and to the acetate, and now this is also how I'm going to adhere it to the card. This is going to be my only anchor point. So I put down more of that tear tape, more of the liquid adhesive, and then I'm lining it up and smushing it down, holding it there for a second. And even though it's not adhered around any of the edges, because it just lays flat, it actually is really secure underneath there, and it's not like raising up or anything like that. And then, it already has that scored kind of middle. For this one, for the A2 size card, I kind of went back and forth, and I really do feel like you could have put some, like a floral behind it for some wallpaper or something like that. I decided to just go with like kind of a light blue blended background, and then I did do some, perfect pearl splatters in the background just to make it a little bit more interesting. I used some Desert Storm cardstock to create my like shelf or counter or whatever that it's going to be sitting on. And so I'm just going to adhere that down there. My original game plan was to add a little bit of a shadow underneath it. And honestly, I would still recommend that. I just didn't do it because I forgot. So just something to note if you decide you want to do something similar. So here, this is the same thing as far as, pulling the whole thing together. Nothing's really changed. I'm going to do the same thing with the whipped cream. It's just going to be a purple straw instead of the green one, and I'm going to cant it to the other side. So instead of it being off to the right, it's going to be off to the left, but I did the same technique. That is what I started to tell you. So you guys know what my coffee preference is. But I don't like whipped cream. Like my kids love it. They put it on their ice cream. In fact, my husband yesterday, because I was down at my parents', he did breakfast for dinner with the kids. And so he made waffles and like bacon and sausage and stuff. And he let them put cream on their waffles along with sprinkles and strawberries. He's the fun one. I'm sure you could tell. So they were very excited for that, but I don't like it. And it's not, I used to think like I just didn't like the Ready Whip, like the metallic taste of them, but not even really that big a fan of Cool Whip. Now, most of the recipes that I use Cool Whip in do mix it with something else. So that's not the only thing I'm tasting. So then I don't really stress it. It's not like it's the most awful thing ever. But if you ask me on my coffee, do you want whipped cream? The answer is going to be no, I don't. So here, again, I have that clear acetate lid that I'm going to put on top. And so because that's going to be hidden, that adhesive is going to be hidden by this piece, I'm just adhering it down at the bottom. And again, that's going to be enough to kind of just hold the whole thing in place. And then I can just add my adhesive like regular. And I need to replace the glue in my glue press. Once it gets down to like the bottom, it really does kind of clog a little bit more often. So rather than trying to get all of my glue out of my glue press, I just grabbed my bottle of of my honeybee glue and used that because I wasn't really needing anything for precision at that moment. I just use it out of habit, honestly. And then the same thing, except this one's purple, is going to go right there in the center. So there you have a shaped card on the left-hand side. It opens up. It's got that great little gold running through it, and the straws, and then an A2 size just for a little bit of versatility. So thank you guys so much for joining me. I always appreciate your time, and I will catch you on the next video. Bye.